Hello and welcome back to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video I'll be unpacking your priorities ahead of the GCSE English Literature Paper 2 with AQA. I'd like to caveat before I go any further that I am not endorsed by AQA. I have, however, examined for this paper with AQA and I currently teach students sitting this exam later this week. That, alongside the fact I've scrutinised and revelled in the examiner's reports over the last few years, makes me feel confident sharing this advice. This exam is worth 60% of your GCSE. It's 135 minutes long as a paper and it's worth 96 marks. And I'd characterise this paper as defining itself through your choice of question and how you manage your time. So, let's talk a little bit more about how the choice operates across this paper. Let's break down section by section what you should expect on Thursday. So, section A is characterised by the fact it's a set text that you studied. It's closed book and you have an option. You choose one of two available questions on your set text. For students in my school, it's an Inspector Calls. For other students, it's Blood Brothers, Animal Farm, Lord of the Flies. For section B, your choice is around the fact that you have one named poem and you get to choose the other poem that connects to it, that you compare it to based on the question you're given. There are a cluster of poems on love and relationships as students in my school study, but I know others of you will be studying power and conflict. My suggestion is that as you go through this video, pick up the top tips I have about how you revisit evidence, and I recommend memorising key quotations. For unseen poetry and comparative unseen, the strategy is simply that you read closely and unpack exactly how devices come alive and affect the way that you as the reader engage with the poem. I'm going to go a little bit further now and suggest that the examiner's report year on year flags the major issues that previous students had, so it's great to know what they think so you don't make those Muppet mistakes yourself. So here's a rundown of what the AQA Examiner's Report for 2018 advised, which will hopefully colour how you shape your precious exam time further. The obvious is stated first. They want you to answer the given question, suggesting that many students, like every year, veer off into what they hope the exam question was, not what is asked of them. Obviously, you don't get marks for that, even if you have the best intentions in the world. The next point I want to make is that you should show your knowledge by pointing to moments in the text. The example makes it abundantly clear that you don't need to learn loads of quotations that you reel off. You need to make sure any evidence you give is relevant and you're rewarded for offering pivotal moments that link to the question you're answering. You don't always need a quote to back up your point. You should also make sure that you allow time to plan. Just a few minutes at the start of each section that you're responding on allows you time to gather your thoughts and ensure that your response is logical and accurate so that you're not wasting time dithering and you're lacking in substance by section C, for example. I'd just like to point out you can answer this paper any section that you choose first, but be sure to number and label each page incredibly carefully so that it gets scanned appropriately for examiners to read. To reach the dizzy heights of top bound, you need to comment on a range of things that the writer has crafted and done on purpose. It's as simple as referencing dramatic irony or pathetic fallacy, but explaining why the writer has done this is crucial. Practically, a great way to ensure that you comment on writer's purpose is to ensure that you use the writer's name. It shows that you know the text is a conscious construct. It's remarkable how many students almost write their essays as if they believe that the text they're commenting on is real. Whilst I know we believe in something called suspended disbelief, make sure your response comments on how and why the writer crafts their text in the way they choose. Maybe they use a certain genre or form on purpose, and how does it shape you as the reader or the audience member's interpretation? Finally, link any contextual information you have back to the text and specifically the question you're answering on. It's amazing how many students end up bolting on random facts about the writer or odd and obscure facts about the time period that it was written in, as if that in itself demands that you get marks. Unless it's linked to the question, of course you can't be rewarded with marks. Now, in terms of managing your exam time, here are some top tips that come for each section. So for section A, with the text that you've studied, remember that you can and should compare and contrast audience reception. How did post-war audiences respond to an inspector calls, as opposed to us today in the 21st century? For section B, remember that you can make this comparison simply. You need to outline the connections between the named poem and show how it links to the poem you have chosen. Don't overcomplicate the structure. Comparative connectives at the start of each paragraph is ideal. And you could start with an opening statement that thematically connects both poems so that you're making it abundantly clear what your view is. Just to flag, every year with section B, students can commit this rubric infringement of referencing more than one other poem aside from the named poem. Your job is to comment on the comparison of the named poem and only one other. You get marked down and capped if you fail to do so. For section C, the unseen, it's just about making sure you've got your head around it, really. Be sure you've read it and you've understood its main points before you begin to write. I'd say that you don't have time to comment on everything, so select maybe 3 or 4 methods that focus your attention. And why not check out my unseen poetry video just to give you a clearer guide of what methods you should be looking out for. As for the final 8-mark comparison question, it's not worth much, okay? And so no more than a paragraph or 2 broadly comparing the unseen poems is perfect. Also, never name parts of speech for the sake of it. Across your whole response, you want to be making sure any time you're analysing language, it's always got a purpose. So, for example, the definitive article, the, should never be analysed for the sake of it unless it builds to a point. You never need to say the demonstrative pronoun the is useful. Unless it actually adds something to your analysis, don't just name parts of speech to sound clever. All that you're doing is clever if you answer the question clearly. So, you're wondering what you should do now, right? I recommend you revisiting evidence and pivotal moments for each set text. It's also quite a nice confidence booster to memorise a few quotations that you can apply to broad themes or broad characters. Specifically for section B, I recommend that you cluster the poems together. As it emerged in the examiner's report, they want to know what connects the named poem from the poem that you choose. Now, obviously, I recommend the playlists I have, as I know these can help you with the steps that I've just shared. I've even got a playlist for love and relationships that shares the clusters for that section of the exam. Of course, time is precious and I don't want you to waste time learning ambitious terminology that you can't apply, feeling like you have to remember every single detail of every single poem or text you studied. And I don't want you to waste time feeling like context is unimportant. It is, but only in the context of how the writer crafted the text for its audience or its readers. I've linked down below every single playlist I have that can help you with this paper, and I believe you can do it. Best of luck, and leave below in the comments anything else that I can do to support you in these final hours. Best of luck. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?